till 3 p.m. As you can see, all members are present. We have Mr. Rayom and Mr. Katnaugh appearing by telephone. Our next item is a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, Ron. That's it. Nobody can say anything. It takes a vote. Takes a vote. You don't have nothing to say. I move. A vote. It's a requirement. The meeting. Take a vote. So that's on. Take the vote. Is it?
Do we take a voice vote or
Well, that's challenging. Nobody.
getting our computer all fired up here?
Tom. Give me just a second.
A shop in Hong Kong is showing support for the pro-democracy movement with a new flavor of ice cream and Polder reports.
A shop used black peppercorns to make tear gas.
So he didn't say to another day or anything, right? Just to do adjourn.
Used against protesters during months of demonstration. And even those hit by tear gas says the ice cream flavor is spot on, describing it as really pungent and irritating and making it hard for her to breathe. The shop owner wants to show support for the pro-democracy movement. It's lost momentum.
Yeah, he didn't give a time. People are emailing me right in the middle of this. Yeah, I think since the motion did not provide for when we were going to adjourn to, it loses its privilege, so it can be debated. because we do have pending business. So we could entertain debate on it or vote.
This thing didn't exist a month ago. How many companies right now are popping up and products or service, there's a product, we could do something about this. That's what
Okay, I'm ready to go.
So we have a motion by Mr. Elm to adjourn. Are we going to voice vote, Jennifer? Okay. Please cast your ballots. And then Mr.
Alderperson Rayom, how do you vote? Alderperson Rayom, how do you vote? Alderperson Catna, how do you vote on adjournment?
Nay.
And Mr. Elm is gone. I'd be,
Or just, he didn't vote, I guess. I don't think it's an abstention, yeah.
can you, you can't review the votes without a vote?
economic recovery in the states that are reopening, we're already seeing that with the small businesses we're in contact with. Sure, no doubt. And I mean, we've seen it in the stock market. It's been rallying, and it's close to an all-time high. It's not quite there yet, but great news coming out about vaccines. I mean, there's just so much to be optimistic about right now, and I think small business owners are leading the way and being innovative, being positive, forward-thinking. And the truth is, the ones that are thinking about 5 years from now and where their business is going to be in 5 years, those are the ones that are going to win. If you're thinking about the next 5 minutes, you're going to be frustrated. But we talk all about the idea of vision and vision casting and looking out in the future. 4 to 5 years out, you've got a big, beautiful new business that
Is he back by chance?
if that's the mindset that you have right now. Yeah, we were talking about, and
Abstain?
Well, what happens when someone just doesn't vote? You can't.
Yeah, you can't reveal it.
I can't reveal
I mean, I guess it could be an abstention, but then there's no, okay, did that. I mean, I guess he's.
Okay, since Alderperson Rayom is not on the line, in order to see the vote, I've got to put in a vote for him. So I'm going to put in abstention for him, and I'll reflect in the minutes what happened. Okay. Motion failed, 7 nays and 1 abstention.
Okay, the next item is explanation of visiting speaker, or the visiting speaker procedure. We have nobody in the audience as visitors, so we'll move on. Next item is my appointments to various boards and commission, which you see attached to your packet. I also will have some more next month. So wait up there.
I'll move to approve the appointments.
We have a motion,
Second.
and a second by Mr. Veneman. Any discussion, questions? With none, I would cast your ballots.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 1 abstention.
The next item is the reading of the minutes of the previous meetings held on April 22nd and April 30th. Those are attached in your packet also.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. If Mr. Rayom is not in attendance anymore, whether it's electronically or on the phone, can we have him be viewed as not present so that it won't keep on being an abstention?
I will try to do that. Give me just a second.
think Dave's trying to tell me something. I told him to email you. Me, Hogan, Tardy, we got no issue with this, so we got to make fun of you. Right, I get it. There we go. Small business theme.
Can you change him to absent on his
Leadership hour with Dan Tardy.
controller?
Ken Coleman, my co-host this hour. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.
Yeah. Is that Mr. Kubaschak?
Alderperson Kubaschak, I can end the meeting in the program and restart it and mark him absent.
Yeah, that's.
It won't be at the end of the meeting here, but in order to get him as absent, since he's already been marked present, it won't let me adjust it because there's already been votes taken. So give me a second, I'm going to restart it, and we'll move on from there.
Now, will that cause an issue because Mr. Rayom was actually present? It would almost be.
I'll reflect in the minutes what happened, but this way we don't have to keep putting in an abstention for him, okay?
Wonderful.
So give me just a second.
Even through uncertain times is just one of the reasons that I'm a client and why I have recommended them for over 20 years. Don't hesitate on this, folks. No matter where you are in the baby steps, if you don't have your term life insurance, then move this to the top of your to-do list. Visit Xander.com or call 800-356-4282. While rates are low, now is the time to get this taken care of. That's Xander.com or 800-356.
Okay, we still have a quorum. And we've got Jake. 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, he stepped out for a second. And Jake's on the phone. Whew. Okay. Correct. You good? Oh, we can continue on. We still have a quorum. Let's get her going. Okay. We're back. So we're at the reading of the previous minutes held on April 21st and April 30th. What are your wishes? So we have a motion by Mr. Kubaschak, seconded by Mr. Kellogg. If there's no further discussion, please cast your ballots. While Mr. Coates is gone and
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
I forgot about that.
The Bryant experts at Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing will tell you 100% absolutely yes. Why risk higher energy bills and expensive breakdowns when an annual clean and check and save energy? Call the Bryant pros at Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing to make an appointment. Their team does whatever it takes to keep you comfortable. Visit comfortair.biz. That's comfortair.biz.
Mr. Coates, we're voting on the previous minutes. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, our next item is the consideration for approval of an ordinance amending the parking regulations on a portion of Market Street. These parking changes were approved at the November 19, 2019 council meeting by adoption of the Public Works Committee report, but an ordinance had not been previously prepared for council. That ordinance is attached. What are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Zerflu and a second by Mr. Kellogg. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Next item is consider extending a city's public health emergency declaration. A consideration of any emergency orders necessary for health, safety, protection, welfare of persons and property within the city. I gotta pull it up here. Okay, I'm just, yeah, and also maybe further to clarify how it pertains to our parks and our city property, should they want to extend it or not.
Right. So there is at present an emergency declaration, obviously from previous councils and council meetings, and you have extended at the last meeting, and so then the question is whether you want to consider it, and it's just actually having the declaration. It wouldn't have to be any additional orders or anything on it. It's up to you if there's anything you may want to do, and we can talk about some of those things. But so first is whether you're going to extend the emergency declaration, which would allow the mayor to, let's say in between council meetings there's something that needs to be done that would allow him to take certain action that otherwise might require committee or council approval. So the first step is whether you want to continue that emergency declaration. And secondly, whether you want to make any rules or orders regarding public health. When the agenda was first done last week, there was, that was right after the Supreme Court had voided the Safer at Home order, and there were a number of counties and municipalities or cities that were doing their own Safer at Home orders or other orders regarding public health. Since we all received some guidance probably on Friday regarding well, whether doing that is legal or not, and I think a lot of municipalities were extending the Safer at Home orders for their cities or counties, and have since rescinded based on information from the Attorney General and others. So I would not advise that that you should engage in anything regarding private businesses or the like. I think at this point your authority would be regarding public property and parks and reasonable rules regarding the things that you have control over as a city, public property, not private property. So some of those types of things are, at present, under the Safer at Home order, the park shelters were closed, the playgrounds were closed, there were mass gathering orders regarding, how many people could be together at one time. So I guess the question is to what extent that you want to continue any of those things regarding property that's under control of the city. As I said, I would not advise doing anything regarding private businesses and the like, because that's probably just inviting some litigation, and I would rather that be left up to maybe a county-wide thing, although their authority to do so is questioned too, or some type of a statewide order. So I know, some of the things are more operational that probably the mayor would have some control over day to day, like the city hall opening. He has done something on that, but the other things regarding our parks and so on, I think those are things that you should talk about, and maybe staff would get some direction, or you might issue particular orders regarding those things.
Thank you. I've also been,
how we want to handle meetings going ahead.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I guess as an example, like the BMX park on city property, what your thoughts are on that? Mr. Kubaschak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. City Attorney, just for clarification on this, is this a case where this emergency declaration sunsets? Is that how we kind of created? Is that what I had initially created when we first approved that it would sunset every regular council meeting, and then therefore we would be renewing it? Or are we actually up for amending what the language would be that it still currently is? And maybe truncating or even discontinuing or terminating this? Because if that's the case where, we want to talk about it, do we have to have separate motions to have amendments made to it for specific parts, like say, for example, I guess I never even thought about that, about like a public-private partnership, with the BMX track. And so with this, are we renewing it? Are we amending it? Are we looking to amend it? Is it something that would automatically fail if we didn't renew it? Could you give a little bit clarification on that?
I believe the language in the last order stated that it was valid until the next council meeting. Let me pull that up. So, whether it's renewed or this council wants to have a different order, there really isn't anything in that order other than the declaration. Let me find it here. Oh, I can't get it in my iDrive. Can you get it?
Should I go?
Go ahead, Mr. Zerflu.
Obviously, the Supreme Court ruling is the Supreme Court ruling. I just wonder, though, if we don't renew this, we had the policy granting employees that additional leave, and obviously the virus isn't gone, so I would just wonder if that would still be in effect if we're not under like the local declaration, and also if, as far as potentially maybe federal reimbursement of any type of expenses occurred as part of the pandemic, whether or not we have to have a declaration in place or not. I don't know the answer to that, but I would just wonder if, we don't really have, I don't think we ordered anything closed ourselves. I think that was all done on the state level. Mr. Kubaschak, unless you remember differently, I don't remember us, I just remember us declaring an emergency, but we hadn't actually shut anything down.
I know Mr. Terry and I have been a part of email chains, and if with other organizations, and maybe Mr. Terry could clarify some of that with that, because it is quite a variety of options going on.
So under that order, we did close
our city parks, the playground equipment, the courts, like the tennis courts, volleyball courts, basketball courts, baseball, softball, those types of activities where it would promote gathering. We did close those, and we left everything else. The parks themselves are open, the trails are open, but we made those decisions under the pretense of the emergency declaration. And as staff, what we were looking at is kind of the CDC guidelines. If we were seeing 2 weeks of reduced cases throughout the state, we'd open things back up. Those are the guidelines that we were using for those closures.
Mr. Terry, and just, I guess just to the point of like the motion that's on the table, that was city staff that administratively closed those things, and not council, like council action?
That's correct. Okay. But as staff, we did it under pretense that the council took emergency action. Otherwise, I don't know that as staff, we would have been comfortable making those types of decisions.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
Michelle?
Right, okay, so the emergency order said it extends to the next regular scheduled council meeting and can be renewed at that time. But really, the only part of this order is that there is an emergency declaration. There were a number of orders that were part of this, which included the paid leave, and then there were like the change orders of certain things that Mayor Vuink had done, but nothing additionally has been done that needs to be ratified or confirmed by the mayor or anyone else. So basically, the only thing left in the order was basically to have the emergency declaration authorizing the mayor to take any steps necessary, and then we did have the thing about the meetings, that the meetings be held electronically and remotely. So those are really the only things that are in the order right now. The rest was all part of the Safer at Home, I believe, right, that playgrounds were supposed to be closed and pools and shelters and that type of thing. So it would be renewed.
I'll get you in order, Jake. Mr. Bemke? Yep, you're welcome. Mr. Bemke?
So I think most of my questions have been answered, but if I understand this correctly, we can extend this declaration, and it gives us some flexibility and the ability to react before the next council meeting?
Right, it allows the mayor to react basically until the next council meeting, and then you confirm his actions or reverse his actions or whatever at the next council meeting, right?
Thank you.
Mr. Cove?
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess looking at this, as it's been mentioned, this is a renewal of what's already in place. And I don't have a problem with that, because what I've learned during this COVID-19 pandemic, in some places where the governor doesn't have an order in place, there's states out there where their governor doesn't have an actual order in place. So absent of anything from state direction, it's come down to individual counties and municipalities being able to react to keep the public safe. And that's fallen to the mayor. In now Wisconsin, with what happened last week Wednesday, we've now become a state that is absent of an order from the governor. And should something happen in the city where we have massive rebound and we don't have the ability to get the council together in a timely manner, I believe it is relatively important to leave this declaration intact so the mayor, who's here to manage the day-to-day affairs of the city, has the ability to make the decisions until we are able to get a full quorum for a council meeting to in effect, help manage the crisis along with the mayor. I don't want to, I'm glad that things are open again. I'm glad that people can go back to work. That's
one thing that I did not like about the lockdown order. And I'm glad people are getting their livelihoods back, but on the other hand of it, I don't know how many people have been out around town and saw what's going on, is the virus is still here, it's still amongst us, and now you have people going to places where everything that was supposed to be doing, they're not doing. So the chance that we have some sort of rebound is potentially very high. And I just do not feel comfortable prematurely giving something for the mayor and putting him in a position where we can't get form for council, yet he needs to run the city on a day operation. So I, at the conclusion of these remarks, would make a motion to approve continuing the mayor's emergency powers. Who's got a motion second? Mr. Catmull, your turn.
Thank you. I'm not against the mayor having the authority to continue to extend safety precautions across the city if need be. However, the rest of the city on the private side is open. I know this is a sensitive issue, but I feel like we're delaying the inevitable if we continue to extend this order. I would like to see our parks open. I would like to see our tennis courts open, and the things that have been closed throughout this bill. The only way I'd be in favor of extending this is if there were amendments to it that would allow those things. And I also believe that this should be based more on a county level rather than a city, because what we're doing if we continue to shed our parks is we're making our taxpayers just drive over to the next city that has a park that doesn't have an order like this in place. So I'm not in favor of this unless we amend it. And that's how I feel on the issue. I realize it's sensitive, but I do feel like we're delaying the inevitable because we're so far away from having a vaccine or cure for this. And I think if the Supreme Court has spoken, people have spoken, the businesses are open. Why would we not open our parks to those who want to go, and those who don't can stay home?
Thank you, Mr. Catmull. Just to clarify that this executive order does not include the closure of parks. It's only for the specific items that Attorney Schill stated, I believe, correct?
Right, after you making the individual rules and orders, it would also simply extend the declaration and allow and give you the flexibility to respond and do orders. So, right, again, the question is, does the council wish to make those decisions, or leave it up to the rec department, or leave it up to the mayor in terms of letting things that will community follow and so on? There'll probably be, there might be degrees of it or kind of a don't stack, if you will. So that would be, either the mayor or the council. And I think the mayor wanted to hear, kind of what you all were thinking about it rather than he's just going ahead and doing it because that you were running off issues out there. And it's really like it's your property, so that's why you can decide to have to put it like any other restaurant on their farm, or might decide how you're going to respond if there isn't a favorite homeowner. So these are only things that are within our control that we generally regulated and make rules for.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess, I don't know if it's the big honor, but yeah, basically what this is resolution being accomplished on council affords the mayor during the state of emergency response to the COVID-19. So I mean, it's a case where if the fire really is, then the mayor has the authority to make the necessary changes to the council. If it's a case where it's non-COVID type of a deal, for example, if NATO comes to account, we would need to have a different response resolution to authorize the mayor to do that. So it's maybe where there's a very select, I guess, powers that were given. But it's a case where, for whatever reason, mechanics of the COVID fire situation that we're giving them their resources. So, but I guess I don't think that fully or part of the good fire, like that. Yes, so you know my intent that I agree with the stat on that line, that to not be close to park unless council found it necessary to have it the park over usage, you know, whether it be an athletic event or the BMX track. You know, I'm going into being that they should be open unless there's a reason we need to close them, unless the council wants to specifically maybe put that order in the executive, in that order that we close those.
For those activities. And that's what, I guess that's my intent. So if you have something else you'd like to do or have added in there, I recommend you do that. Mr. Benjamin.
Well, I was actually going to ask that same type of question because as I understood when Mr. Terry spoke, that when the parks and tennis courts and such were closed, the staff closed them based on, right? So, yeah, I'm along with Jake and with Mr. Mayor, and I would like the parks to remain open if that was, are they closed currently?
Just those activities like the ball fields, tennis courts, otherwise the parks are open to the general public. We're trying to, you know, we don't have the staff to wipe down the playground equipment on a hourly basis type of thing. So we did close those. The bathrooms are not currently open, again, because we would otherwise clean them only once a day. So that's, you know, we had discussion with the mayor and made that decision, and if the mayor wishes them to be open and this declaration is approved, then we'll open them.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why I kind of wanted to bring the council here to see what since we have the option to sit here and discuss it, what your wishes are. So if you wish them to be closed, then we can put that in the order. Otherwise, if you don't at this time, I plan to open them and react should we need to down the road. But like Mr. Terry brought up a good point, you know, if we open up the bathrooms, what? You know, and that's another thing, do we not open up the restrooms so there's not, you know, a sanitary issue that we have to worry about for cleaning? He also brought up the playground. You know, there's not going to be cleaning of the playground equipment regularly. Some things to consider. Mr. Cole?
If I may, please, I'm not sure what the ordinance is.
I'll get you.
Yeah, we'll get you that.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Cole?
Just some thoughts to the parks related to public facilities as it goes now. Even when we had the lockdown order, there were places that were still open that had public facilities that people could use, like a gas station. And I'm sure a lot of those places were not cleaning their latrine facilities on a regular basis. I think, in my own opinion, by keeping those closed in the park, we're going to create more of a problem than if we just go ahead and open them and let people use them. I know a little bit of common sense goes a long ways. Hopefully you would hope somebody uses the park that, you know, they'd have enough common sense to take precautions to clean up after themselves and leave it clean for the next person as well. But you always have one or two that don't seem to play by the rules. I don't know a lot about COVID-19. I've heard allegedly that it can live on a surface for a while, but everything that I've always been taught is that viruses are temperature sensitive. They can only live outside the body for a certain amount of time. So as far as like keeping playground equipment shut down, in my own opinion, I don't believe there's a need to do that. It's, as we've discussed at this council tonight, it's certainly an issue that people are very sensitive to and about, but it's just really weird because you go from place to place to place and none of the rules are consistent from city to city or county to county or state to state. And I think ultimately, as far as preventing the spread of the virus, it just comes down to individual accountability and common sense, practice social distancing, practice proper hygiene, everything that we've been told in the public service announcements over the past couple months. Keep your gatherings to family members only, and just these common sense steps that the little goes a long way. So in my own opinion, I think we are okay to open up, but strongly encourage the public to keep heeding the measures that we have been told over the past couple months, and not just, it's open, let's go back to normal.
Mr. Bemke.
One, do we know what the county is doing with their parks, and has there been any recommendations from the health department?
I don't know if you know anything contrary, Mr. Terry, but they are not currently, they do not have any orders in place. Correct. On their website, they do have guidelines for businesses and a toolkit, basically, for recommendations, but they don't have any orders in place currently. Mr. Katna.
Thank you. Just a few additional thoughts. I feel we're either open or we're not in terms of our city property, whether it be parks. I can't see opening up a park, but yet closing the bathroom so that people drive down the road to go to the gas station bathroom. I mean, people are going to have to go to the bathroom. And the taxpayers do pay for us to provide those services. And without a county order issued, they can drive a few miles down and go to a different city or municipality and go to their parks. So I can't see reapproving this order unless it were to lift all restrictions at this point, because that's what's going on around the rest of the state. And I also feel that if it does get to a point where COVID-19 is getting extremely worse in Wisconsin Rapids, that we can come together as a council and readdress that issue. So at this point, I'm still not in favor of it. Not because I don't think COVID is a serious issue, but because of what has gone on around the rest of the state, what's happening in the private businesses. I don't see why we should restrict any access to the public from city property. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have anything else to add? So the current motion is to continue the executive order in place, correct? Yeah. Yep, we have a motion by Cole, seconded by Bemke. Is that correct, Mr. Cole?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Point of order real quick. Do we got a timeline on that? Is it indefinitely, or is it going to be till the next regularly scheduled council meeting?
I would like my motion to reflect till next regularly scheduled council meeting so we can review it, and if there's any amendments that come over the next month, that those can be discussed with the body as well.
Mr. Bemke, are you fine with that amendment? So we have a motion and a second to continue the current executive order that's in place until the next council meeting. Any further discussion? Michelle?
I just have a point of clarification. So let's say, so does this mean that the mayor then, if he believes that there are certain steps that need to be taken in terms of closing something, that he will do so? Are you basically, I mean, that's, I guess my concern is, I think we should be, and just as a legal analysis, that we should be encouraging the following of the WEDC and CDC and the health department guidelines. And so is this, if you were not deciding to do anything regarding parks and such in this order, it still would be within the prerogative of the mayor to make those decisions from now forward? Is that a fair statement? Or, and my concern is that, let's say the Raptors say, okay, we're going to open up, we're going to have 2,500 people on Saturday. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that goes against everything, but are you going to allow the mayor to basically say that that's not appropriate? And not that maybe he won't say that, I don't know, but there's all these teams, all of our renters are wondering kind of, and so I guess I'm trying to get a feel for when they call and we basically say, yeah, everything's okay for it to start, we're back to normal, or you expect that there is going to be some, maybe, tempered, I guess I'm just.
Thank you, and I agree, and that's, because I'm already getting asked questions, and I'll use like the BMX as an example. If they want to hold a race this Sunday and there could be hundreds of people there, maybe not, but is that something the council is comfortable with? Or an athletic event in one of our parks, in one of our fields, lunch by the river. Oh, sorry, Mr. Zerpa.
I wasn't prepared to get that far into it, but I think that there shouldn't be large gatherings right now. I mean, from the constitutional perspective that the Supreme Court ruled, my understanding of that ruling was the whole, the local level is the level that should be making these decisions. I personally wouldn't want a several thousand people close proximity kind of event, but maybe there are things that you can have social distancing. As far as the motion that's on the floor, I took it as to be no change. I mean, these things were closed by city staff, to begin with, to handle the crisis the best way they thought. I don't think there is any changes. The motion just extends the order. I mean, unless I missed something there.
Mr. Kubitschek.
Yeah, I was actually going to reiterate what Ms. City Attorney just said, but I had already asked for clarification on how many different things earlier this evening, so I figured that my welcome was worn out kind of on this particular situation. But no, I think that's what we're voting on. We're literally voting on giving the mayor the authority to make the decision whether we do any type of activities with the guidance of what the county or federal government or whoever, whatever it says in this, and Ms. Schill actually sent us all that email of the original emergency declaration, and that's what it is. That's what we're voting on. So, I mean, if it's a case where something happens in between, if the mayor is allowing activities of any kind, and then something happens, we're giving him the authority to be able to continue that, or to close down, however he sees fit. And whether it's a justifiable reason or not, he's got to use the guidance of the state, federal, and county governments, but it does not explicitly say how that is. And yeah, we're literally giving the mayor the authority to make decisions moving forward until next council meeting, or if we have a special council meeting, if there's a real catastrophe, but we're giving him that authority. That's what I'm seeing this vote is, and I think that's what the motion is whether we're going to continue this emergency declaration giving the mayor powers that the council has, specifically with COVID-19, or we're going to vote it down. And then we got to figure out what we're going to do after that. So that's what I see. And I think that's what it actually is, but I didn't make the motion on that. So.
Thank you. Mr. Kellogg.
With COVID-19, it's so fluid. You don't know what's going to happen in the community or a city. And I believe in extending the declaration. And with organizations, if it's BMX or others, you can work with that organization to discuss how they're going to implement the CDC recommendations and so forth. So it's not just, well, open it up. You can discuss with them, or if the rafters or whatever. But I think it's so fluid that we have to give you the discretion, Mayor, to make some of those decisions. But I believe in opening the parks, is what was discussed, because people go to some other park, some other city. And so I believe in opening those up, but I just want to mention it. But I'd rather give you the discretion to go month by month, have this for 1 month, and then we can discuss it again another month. But we need someone to help work with those organizations to get understanding. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Cog. Mr. Veneman.
Actually, after Mr. Kubitschek spoke, and I basically agree in that that's what this motion is doing, is giving the mayor the authority to do that. And I think based on the judgment, I mean, we went for fish fry on Friday night, and it was socially distanced at the place we went, and it was handled well. I think people are having common sense. I haven't seen anything rampant, and so I think that in terms of the mayor having the authority and using common sense on that, I'm okay with it at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Veneman. And I plan on, I'll work with the health department, should an event come up, or kind of get the recommendations, and city staff. All right, if there's nothing further, we have a motion by Mr. Coe, seconded by Mr. Bemke. Nothing further, let's vote. Mr. Catna?
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote? Motion carried, 6 ayes, 1 nay.
Okay, next item is, where are we at? Oh, there we go. Considered adoption and action of the Planning Commission held on May 4th. Let me bring up that. Oh, thank you. Okay, look for it. The Planning Commission was held by a remote video conference on May 4th at 4 p.m. List of members of attendance are on file at the clerk's office. The meeting was called to order at 4:05 p.m. First item was approve the report of the April 6th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Motion by Burkhart, second by Bray, to approve the report from April 6th Planning Commission meeting. That motion carried 6 ayes and 0 nays. Item 2 is Plan 20-0243 Downtown Wisconsin Rapids Farmers Market. Request for a site plan review to operate a farmers market within the downtown on First Avenue South between Goggin Street and West Grand Avenue. Motion by Bray, seconded by Bemke, to approve Plan 20-0243 Downtown Wisconsin Rapids Farmers Market with the following condition. The application shall work closely, or the applicant shall work closely with the city street department to implement appropriate traffic measures such as signage. Secondly, all applicable permits through the city of Wisconsin Rapids and other jurisdictions shall be obtained. And thirdly, the community development staff shall have the authority to approve minor modifications to the plan. That motion carried 6 ayes, 0 nays. Item 3 was to adjourn. Motion by Bemke, second by Tao, to adjourn. Motion carried 6 ayes, 0 nays. Meeting adjourned at 4:14 p.m. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Coates, seconded by Mr. Kellogg. Is there any discussion? Please cast your ballots.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
The next item is consideration for adoption of action of the standing committees of the council. The first one would be Finance and Property Committee meeting. Mr. Cole?
Thank you, Your Honor. Property and Finance Committee meeting was held by remote video conferencing on Monday, May 11th, 2020 at 5 p.m. The public was invited to listen to the audio of the meeting. The meeting was live on Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, Spectrum Channel 98.5, Solaris Channel 3. All members of the committee were present, with Alderperson Koth and Alderperson Kellogg. This is in the first floor conference room in City Hall. It should be council chambers. And Alderperson Kubitschek appearing by video conference. Also in attendance were Alderperson Rayom, Mayor Blazer, Jennifer Gossick. Also via video conference were Alderpersons Veneman, Sue Schill, and Tim DeSorcy. The meeting was called to order at 5 p.m. Item number 2 is consider for approval a quote from Complete Control for the upgrade of new software hardware package for the city's HVAC system. It was moved by Koth, seconded by Kellogg, to approve the quote from Complete Control Incorporated to upgrade the building automation software for the city's HVAC systems in the amount of $25,381. Motion carried. Item number 3 was consider a special event application including a street closure, noise ordinance, vending and alcohol license premise extension onto a public street and right-of-way, Johnson Street between 3rd Avenue South and 2nd Avenue South, from Amy Friday, doing business as Square Bar, located at 210 Johnson Street, for a customer appreciation celebration event held Saturday, August 29th, 2020, from 12 p.m. noon to 12 a.m. midnight. After the discussion, this item was held over until the June 2, 2020 Property and Finance Committee meeting. Item number 4 was consider for approval a Class A liquor and Class A beer license application for Shari Ashapuri Incorporated, Manal Patel Agent, doing business as GR8 Store for the premises located at 3553 A Street South. After noting that the agent for Shari Ashi Incorporated should be Arpan Patel, it was moved by Koth, seconded by Kellogg, to approve the Class A liquor and Class A beer license application for Shari Ashapuri Incorporated, Arpan Patel Agent, doing business as GR8 Store for the premises located at 3553 A Street South. Motion carried. Item number 5 was consider for approval a Class B liquor and Class B beer license application for the Buck Rub of Wisconsin Rapids LLC, Thomas Mitchell Agent, doing business as the Buck Rub for the premises located at 1511 First Street North. It was moved by Koth, seconded by Kellogg, to approve the Class B liquor and Class B beer license application for the Buck Rub of Wisconsin Rapids LLC, Thomas Mitchell Agent, doing business as the Buck Rub for the premises located at 1511 First Street North. Motion carried. Item number 6 was initial review of alcohol license renewals. The committee conducted initial review of the alcohol license renewals. No action was taken. Item number 7 was beverage operator licenses. It was moved by Kellogg, seconded by Koth, to approve the beverage operator licenses. Motion carried. Item number 8 was consider a resolution to amend the 2020 budget. It was moved by Koth, seconded by Kellogg, to approve the 2020 budget amendment number 1. Motion carried. See attachment 1. Item number 9 was an audit of the bills. It was moved by Koth, seconded by Kellogg, to approve check number 3322-3746. Motion carried. Item number 10 was to set the next meeting date. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Property and Finance Committee meeting will be held June 2, 2020 at 4:30 p.m. Item number 11, in open session, the committee will vote to go into closed session under section 19.85, para 1, para E of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. Para A, in closed session, the committee will preliminarily discuss negotiations and strategy regarding an offer from a property owner for the city to purchase property. Para B, the committee will take no formal action and adjourn in closed session. It was moved by Koth, seconded by Kellogg to go into closed session. A roll call vote resulted in the affirmative. In closed session, the committee discussed the purchase of the property. No action was taken and the committee adjourned in closed session. If there's anything anyone wants held out, I'll stop here for a moment. Mr. Kubiszek?
Yes, I'd like to hold out item number 8.
Item number 8 will be held out. Anyone else want anything held out? With that, I will make a motion to approve the report holding out item number 8.
We have a motion and a second. We have a motion by Mr. Koh, second by Mr. Kellogg. Is there any further discussion with item number 8 being held out? Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote on the balance of the report.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Mr. Kubiszek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only reason why I held this out, I intend to either make a motion or pass an approval of this, but this is one that carries a little bit more weight in terms of a budget amendment. We need supermajority vote, and I'm not blaming anybody. I missed it when I read through the agenda, but maybe something like this would be at the top of the agenda as a standalone item, being a budget amendment item. Is that how we had that in the past? I don't remember. But with that being said, I want the guise of transparency, so that's why I want to have it voted separately, just so that it is bringing awareness to that we are voting on a budget amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Kubiszek. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Mr. Kubiszek, seconded by Mr. Kellogg. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, please cast your ballots.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. Next will be the reading of the Public Works Committee report. Mr. Rayom's not here. Who is Mr. Catna, the secretary? Or it might be easier if Mr. Veneman read the report. If you're good with that, sir. Kind of put you on the spot here.
Public Works meeting was held on May 5th, 2020. Called to order. Reviewed the DPW report. Number 3, we discussed the literal application of MC 6.04(1)A5 as it relates to sidewalk and physical limitations on the proposed 15th Avenue project from Apricot Street to Irving Street, and consider modifying the ordinance to address these types of situations. Clerk's note, sidewalk ordinance has been added to the packet. Consider amending the preliminary resolution for Washington Street to include parcel 34-05132.
Excuse me, Mr. Veneman. Are you reading the notice or the report? There you go.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I didn't have that in front of me, I apologize.
Nope.
Yep, I was reading. Yep. Okay, scratch that.
If you want to start at the roll call.
Pardon?
If you want to start at like the roll call part with the motions.
Okay.
Like item 1.
Yep. Item 1 was called to order. The meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. Review the DPW report. The DPW report was reviewed. Discuss the literal application of MC 6.04, para 1, para A, para 5, as it relates to sidewalk and physical limitations on the proposed 15th Avenue project from Apricot Street to Irving Street, and consider modifying the ordinance to address these types of situations. Motion by Rayom, second by Catna, to modify MC 6.04, para 1, para A as follows. On any block of a street which has 50% of the sidewalk in that block existing, which also connects to a block or street with conditions matching 6.04, 1A, 1 through 4, the Public Works Committee may determine that a block with more than 50% existing sidewalk may be removed on right-of-way widths less than 60 feet that do not connect to the other sidewalk. Motion carried, 3-0. Number 4, we considered amending the preliminary resolution for Washington Street to include parcel 34-05132 for the installation of sidewalk. Motion by Rayom, second by Veneman, to amend the preliminary resolution for Washington Street to include parcel 34-05132 for the installation of sidewalk. Motion carried, 3-0. 5, review city engineer's report relating to referral to consider centerline on Chestnut Street from Hill Street to 8th Street South to control vehicle speeds while pedestrians are present. The engineer's report was reviewed. The committee requests the engineering department conduct further speed analysis when congestive conditions exist and supply estimates of cost for painting centerline, lettering on the roadway, and LED signing, and report back to the committee. Six, review and consider 2020 asphalt contract bids. Motion by Rayom, second by Veneman, to award the 2020 asphalt contract bid to American Asphalt for 4,175 tons of asphalt for the city's 2020 construction projects at a cost of $323,282.60. Motion carried, 3-0. Review the referral list. The referral list was reviewed. Next was a motion to adjourn by Rayom, second by Veneman to adjourn. Motion carried, 3-0. The meeting was adjourned at 7:03 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Veneman. Is there a motion to?
I'll make a motion to approve the report, just correcting item number 3, so it says 15th Street.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second by Mr. Kubaschak.
I'm sorry, I was just going to make that correction to 15th Street, not 15th Avenue.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Please cast your ballots.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
The next item is the Human Resource Committee report held May 7th, and we also have one on May 19th. I don't know if you want to take them together or individually, sir.
We can do them individually.
Okay.
Meeting, HR committee meeting. I had it on here. Okay, HR committee meeting, May 7, 2020. Meeting was called to order by Chairperson Kubaschak at 5:03 p.m. Item number 2, consider for approval revision to the city's emergency paid sick leave policy originally implemented on March 16th, 2020 and updated on April 30th, 2020. Motion by Bemke, second by Zerflu, to revise the city's emergency paid sick leave policy as presented. Motion carried, 3-0. See attached revised policy. Item number 3, update the hiring status of the vacant, update on the hiring status of the vacant Human Resources Director position. Deb Hagel gave an update. Item number 4, update on employee recruitment. Deb Hagel gave an update. Item number 5, motion by Bemke, second by Kubaschak, to go into closed session under section 19.85, subparent 1, subparent E of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or the conducting other specified business, public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. Roll call vote was taken. All members voted in the affirmative. Motion carried. In closed session, the committee received an update on negotiations with IAFF. The firefighters agreement gave negotiation parameters to the city staff. Item number 6, the committee did not go into open session. Item number 7, motion by Kubaschak, second by Bemke, to adjourn in closed session. Motion carried 3-0. The meeting adjourned at 6:41 p.m. And with that, if there's anybody that wants to hold anything out, if not, I will make the motion for approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Kubaschak, seconded by Mr. Koth. Any further discussion? Seeing none. You ready? Please cast. Nice. Please cast your ballots.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Mr. Kubaschak, from today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Human Resources Committee, May 19, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. The meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. by Alderperson Kubaschak. The committee may move to go into closed session under section 1985, subparent 1, subparent E of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Motion by Zerflu, second by Bemke, was carried to enter into closed session. Roll call vote 3-0. All members in favor. In closed session, the committee received an update on International Association of Firefighters Local 425 contract negotiations and discussed a tentative agreement with the IAFF Local 25. Motion by Bemke, second by Zerflu, to enter into open session. Motion carried 3-0. Roll call vote. Motion by Bemke, second by Zerflu, to approve the tentative agreement with IAFF Local 425 for a successor labor agreement for the 2019-2021 contract time period. Motion carried 3-0. Motion by Zerflu, second by Bemke, to adjourn. Motion was carried to adjourn the meeting at 5:47 p.m. With that, if anybody's got, and I guess we can't hold anything out, that's the only item on there. So with that, I make motion to approve this meeting minutes.
We have a motion by Mr. Kubaschak, seconded by Mr. Zerflu. Is there any further discussions? Seeing none, please cast your ballot.
Alderperson Catna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
That moves us on to item 11, which is reports of other committees, commission, boards, and department reports.
We'll make a motion to accept the balance of the reports.
So I have a motion by Mr. Koth, second by Mr. Veneman. Yes, please, Mr. Catno.
Yeah, I do have a comment, or I need some clarification on item H and the Parks Commission. In here, they state that the aquatics facility would stay closed until state guidelines allow, which we now know those are completely lifted. It also talks about recreational programming, city parks, for example. Walking trails and parks are open, but restrooms remain closed. We did address all that earlier. I would just like clarification for the public on approving that report and how that would proceed in terms of our outlook for those parks and those items on that report.
Mr. Terry, do you have an update?
Yeah, so the Parks Commission moved to open the pool June 29th. And if it is unable to open on June 29th, it would not open if we can't open before July 20th. One of the challenges with this facility is making sure that we have staff time to train and be ready to go. And we haven't done any of that training yet because of the COVID issue and the ability of staff to do that. The lifeguard classes have been postponed, for example. The kids can't go get that training at this point. So we would like to maintain that schedule. That's the schedule that we've been discussing with summer staff. Most of the other pools in the region have closed for the season. Marathon County, Portage County. And so we do have concerns that everybody will want to come here, and we have some suggestions that we'll bring to the next Parks Commission if that looks like that's the situation. Because first and foremost, we want to serve the city of Wisconsin Rapids residents. But as a result, I would recommend that we continue to observe this opening date of June 29th.
And just to confirm, Attorney Schell, Park and Rec Commission, they're a governing body that has sole discretion to make that decision?
Well, under the general direction and control of the Common Council. So I think this is a situation where, and first off, you do not actually approve their minutes or pull out anything in their minutes for action because they are somewhat independent. But I would think that this is a situation where this is kind of the game plan that they've set out. And if it's going to change or the decisions they make, that, this would be well into the whole emergency declaration if the mayor needed to address something, or at your June council meeting, you may want to. I've been asked recently regarding the role of the Park and Rec Commission, and it's kind of evolved over time in terms of what things are taken there and what goes to finance and what goes to council. So I think that's something that will be looked at soon in terms of defining those roles, and so we don't have this back and forth all the time over what they're doing versus what the council may want to do. So the ordinance does say that they have control over parks and aquatics facilities. So I would say that if there's an issue with something, that could be brought to the council as a standalone item to exercise their direction and control, or have the mayor use his emergency powers to address decisions that maybe they made that might need to be changed based on the pandemic.
So just to clarify, for example, in the report, it says walking trails and parks are open, but restrooms remain closed under the emergency declaration. The mayor would be able to open those restrooms if he chose to?
Well, right, I think they were under the impression that there was
Emergency declaration in place, and that was before the Safer at Home was revoked, so I don't know their belief that in the absence of that direction, whether they would want them open or closed. So I would say that the mayor probably would give direction on that up until the next Park and Rec meeting or council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kellogg.
I represent the city council on McMillan Library. I made a comment or statement last month, and I want to reiterate it now for anybody viewing this program, that the library has a campaign, building campaign of $2 million to do the second floor adult area, and they're going to put in a makerspace. They're going to put in more computers, conference rooms, and remodeling that area, plus the library, not the library, but the theater in the library. And so far they've raised $1 million in matching funds, and they have over $300,000. And anyone who wants to donate money to the library by June 15th will be matched with a $1 million matching fund. So they may want to consider that.
Thank you. I'll argue that they should get in line for the $500,000 match that we have going on with the aquatic center. So I'll throw that out there. But thank you, sir. Is there any, Mr. Kubaschak?
One real quick clarification. Do we want to continue with kind of like approving all those minutes? I guess, Mr. Quoth, I'm asking if you were interested in amending your motion to placing those minutes on file in the clerk's office rather than actually approving it, because I don't know if we're actually approving any of those minutes that we don't have authority to approve.
Thank you, Alderperson Kubaschak. I will amend the motion to accept the balance of the reports and place on file.
Mr. Benjamin, you're okay with that? Okay. So without any further discussion, we have a motion and a second to place the minutes on file. Please cast your ballot.
Alderperson Cattner, how do you vote? Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
The next item is reading of written referrals of communication to committees. Are there any?
I have none.
Okay. Just want to thank Mr. Mickelson for handling the technology, community media, or Mr. Bachman for putting this out live. It brings us to our final item, which is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Koth, second by Mr. Zerflu. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Motion carries. Have a good night.